Hi, it's Carol from Glass Art Diva. Today we're going to continue on working with the bird. Now we've already soldered on one side, and at the end of the day when I'm done, I like to cover my projects because if it's just the copper or if you've laid a bead of solder down, it will tarnish. And if you're not sure when you're going to be able to return to your project, this just helps to give it a little protection from the air so that it doesn't tarnish as fast. So today we're going to work on the beak. Now the beak is a hinge point. If you knock it a little bit back and forth, it will break off. So I want to add some extra support to it today. And I can do it either two ways. I can use wire. This is 18 gauge pre-tinned wire. I usually buy 16 and 18 gauge pre-tinned wire. I'm a little lazy, so I don't like to buy copper and having to tin it myself. But today I want to use Restrip. Now Restrip is copper, but it's flat. It's not quite 1/4 of an inch, but it's quite flexible. So I want to use that because I want to keep this area nice and flat. I don't want to give it any height that I would end up with if I had used the wire. So always keep it in a sealed bag because copper does tarnish, making it harder to work with it if it is tarnished. You would have to take a little bit of steel wool and polish it up before you could work with it. So I've gone ahead and I've cut a piece of Restrip and I've molded it to the beak of the bird, like so. And always wear a glove or something because you're going to be working quite closely with this piece and you don't want to burn yourself. So I have, like I say, I've molded it. I don't know if I can bring this up closer to you. I've molded it to the beak of the bird, and I've given myself some extra length because I also want to bring it down into the bottom of the cheek and the top of the bird's head so that it would give it extra strength. So I'm going to add a little bit of flux and then just a dab of solder, and you want to make sure it's nice and tight in there, and you got to hold it for a second to make sure that the heat gets through. And it's just going to be a kind of a tack for right now until I can mold it a little bit better. So as you can see, it's starting to come away a little bit from here, so I'm going to use my trusty little pliers here, and I'm going to squeeze it, try to squeeze it in a little tighter and give it some more heat from the soldering iron so that it lays a little flatter and a little tighter against the beak. Now one thing I wanted to mention to you too before I continue on is that start working on the beak before you flip it over and continue on this side with your solder. The reason being is that if I flip this over and I started working on this side, you've got some height here that's taken the bird a bit off of the table because of the height of the bead. So flip it over and do this all on one side at one time so you don't have to contend with that height because it'll make your piece rocky and it'll be harder to work with this. So I'll continue on, and I'm going to solder this. And again, always wear some kind of a glove or something to protect your hands because this is going to be hot. Mechanics gloves are a good option. And just hold your iron down into the solder that's there, and hopefully it'll hold. Sometimes you really have to work at this kind of project, I guess, or this piece support to get it to work. There we go. That's better. And again, I'll do the top. Now you'll see that I'm bringing it up a little higher. If you don't want it that high, just take your cutters. Now on your cutters there's a flat side, your wire cutters. So keep it on the flat side facing you. Give it a snip, break it off, and then fit it in. And again, a little bit of flux, a little bit of solder, and hold it down. And again, hold your iron for a second or two because it's going to need the heat to hold it in place. You might have to do this a couple of times just to get it to work. And sometimes you gotta have an extra pair of hands to hold things in place, like so. Whatever works for you so that things stay in place. And then I'll just take and I'll add some more solder and work it around the beak. And now the beak has more stability, more strength, and it's not likely to fall off. Thank you for watching. See you again next time. Take care.